Welcome to my review for Saint Maud, a 2019 film now given a belated cinema release in 2020. Obviously this is because there aren't enough blockbusters to go around at the moment, and a curious side effect of that is that a few indie films, small budget films, are getting some limelight that they normally wouldn't. I think the reason cinema chains have picked this one out, Saint Maud, is because it got really good reviews when it came out. It's got 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got real high praiseworthy things all over the movie poster, scary as hell, exhilarating, all that kind of stuff. So it makes it easy for them to at least try and market it to people who maybe wouldn't normally go out and see films again until the big ones come back, if you see what I mean. I'd never heard of this film until a week ago, and I saw the high praise on social media. It's had a really good run with people giving it a lot of good word of mouth. So I was more than up for making this my cinema trip of the week last night. It was either that or Akira, this re-release of an 80s Japanese manga, which not really my thing. So I chose Saint Maud and off I went. But sadly, I have to report that my experience of the film was somewhat tainted by these idiots who were talking, especially towards the beginning of the film. Now, this is actually the second week running that I've been plagued by this. When I watched Blackwater Abyss last week, 6 guys were talking on the back row quite a lot, especially in the first half of the film. And this week again, it was a group of 3 this time. And you know what? As soon as these guys walked in, my moron radar started to twirl in my head, because they got halfway up the stairs and they just stopped. And they seemed to take an age to actually... You know when people look at their ticket to get the row number and then they match it up with the... They just seem to take forever to get through this very small, simple thing. And sure enough, as soon as the film started, out of the 20 or 25 people who were there for the screening, these 3 just happened to be the 3 who ended up just talking through the whole start. And eventually this couple quite close to where they were sat told them to shut up, and they did for about a minute. And then they carried on talking again, and this couple got really irate now and started giving him a lecture over the seats, like, "This is a cinema, you need not to talk," and all this. And I was thinking, yes, go for it, because I'm too chicken to do stuff like that. But so I'm really glad this couple stepped in, and eventually they did shut up. But by this point, like 5 or 10 minutes of the film had gone past, and my concentration had just not been on Saint Maud. So for a while during the film, I sort of felt like I was playing catch up a bit with the plot, so what can you do? Morons. But anyway, let's get on to the film. And so this is a film about a young woman of about 25. She's living in this seaside town, and she's a care worker. And she's just got herself a new client, this 50-year-old-ish woman who's dying of cancer, but still has a little bit of time left before she sadly goes. And now Maud has recently discovered religion and God, but she's pushing it onto other people, trying to lecture people about it, and you shouldn't really do that. And one of the people she tries to push her new religious beliefs on is the cancer patient, who just wants to sleep with her lesbian lover and have parties, and doesn't want anything to do really with praying and sitting around talking to God. So there's a conflict straight away, and that goes down a really dark path as the film goes on. But I won't talk any more about that. You should discover it for yourself. I don't want to give the plot away, this being such a new movie. In terms of Maud herself and her character, this is our main protagonist. She's a real enigma. I mean, we don't really get to know much about her backstory at all, and yet here she is, a young woman in her 20s, on her own in a seaside town. She seemingly has no friends, no relationship. Her career is a very lonely one, and she just seems a real lost soul, like she's got no purpose in life, and she knows it, and she can't understand why that is. At the beginning of the film, she's actually at least a little bit more positive, because she's discovered God. She thinks that finally she's found the cure for all her problems, and now she's got a purpose. But it's not long before she thinks to herself, well, actually, that's not really doing it for me either. I'm back to square one. And so she's just a character who's literally got no reason to get up for in the morning. She just wanders around this town, occasionally working, and she just doesn't have any goals or drive, no reason for being. And it's sadly a thing that's probably quite prevalent all over the country. There are loads of people like this who are around us, and it's very sad. I mean, this girl's got everything going for her. She's good looking, she's intelligent, she can hold a conversation. There's nothing outwardly wrong with her. She's just in this position where she just has no drive for anything, and she can't understand it. And whenever she thinks she's, got something going, like the religious thing, or I mean, she tries to chat chat up a guy in a bar at one point. That doesn't do anything for her. She tries to reconnect with this old friend. That doesn't do anything for her. Nothing gives her the purpose that she's seeking. So it's quite a bleak drama. It's not really a horror film. It's more like a drama that has elements of horror to it. It's a first-time effort by a director called Rose Glass. I'll try not to remember that name. It'll be interesting to see what she does in the future, because this is a good effort for somebody's debut. And it's edited in a really kind of art house way. It's very stylistically shot. There's lots of mini montage edits, of lots of quick cuts of things happening to, you know, speed through Maud's many days of just moping around. The sound's very good. There's no real musical songs on it, but there's lots of scratchy, dirty, horror-y sound effects that are just peppered all over scenes that otherwise would be quite normal. You know, Maud walking along in front of these amusement arcades on the seafront, but with all these really eerie sound effects, it kind of makes it just this simple act of walking very unsettling. Is it a scary film? No. It has been said that it is a scary film and all this blah blah, but I didn't think it was at all, really. Like I said, it's more of a depressing drama than something that's going to scare you. There was one scene that scared me a little bit, and that's it. It's just not that sort of film. So I think it's been overhyped a little bit in that regard. But it is a good film. It's a good story. You know, it starts off slow. It takes a while to build, but I found it, by the time I got to the end, I was very satisfied that I'd seen a well put together, well crafted story. And the last shot of the movie is brilliant. You have to see that. It's really good. So on the whole, would I recommend you go and see it? No, I wouldn't. But I would see it at home. I don't think it's a film that needs the cinema experience. It does feel like a very good Netflix, Amazon Prime film that has suddenly found itself on primetime cinema because there's no other films to see. But I don't think going to the cinema would make the experience any better. But yeah, it's a good film. It's a strong drama, not the sort of thing I would normally see. I'll still put it in my horror playlist because it does have elements of horror to it, but there you go. So shall we get the bag of horror out? I think so. Let's see what we've got in here today. Well, there's a few things in here. We've got, we've got 3 bloody axes, but one of them has seemingly fallen apart, but that was meant to be 3. So I'll just slot that back in there. Yeah. Suffice to say, I did not pay top dollar for these axes, so they can fall apart quite easily. So, okay, 3 bloody axes. I think the film is getting better reviewed in general than what I'm giving it, but although I can appreciate the craft and what went into this film, it's a very stylishly well-made film. It's maybe not my normal taste, but I still appreciated it. I still enjoyed it. I can't see myself rewatching it. You may enjoy it more than I did, but it is a good film, but not excellent in my eyes. So I think 3 is about right. It's a good debut from a promising director, I think. And there's a good lead performance in this film by a woman whose name I really should have remembered and I didn't. So keep an eye out for that. Right, I do have a pin for the horror locations map, so stick around to see that little mini clip. But apart from that, this was my review for St. Maud. 3 bloody axes. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. So as you can see, today I'm looking at the world map section of the horror locations board. Go a bit higher, we can see America with its 7 pins. The world map currently has 5, but I'm about to add the 6th. And it's the first one for Great Britain. It goes into England. I'll put it up near Scarborough, where I believe, I have a theory that St. Maud may have been set there. So if I scroll back out, there you can see we now have 6 pins on the world map. 1 in Russia, 1 in the UK, 1 in Japan, and 3 in Australia. Okay, cheerio, bye-bye.